All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Brawn. This is a figure that I have been excited about for a while. I am absolutely loving all of these new redone Deluxe Class mini bots that they've been doing. Granted, this one is Studio Series 86 and a lot of them have been in just the regular Generations line, but they're pretty much just finding a place to put them, which I appreciate. It doesn't really matter what line they're in. For all intents and purposes, this is just a new Generations Brawn, and I think it turned out really, really nicely. I love his little Jeep mode here. I was kind of worried that, that they would have a difficult time doing the scaling of Brawn because he turns into a vehicle that should be a little bit bigger than, a lot of cars and stuff, but is supposed to turn into a robot who's a little bit smaller. And I think that they hit the good middle ground here. It's definitely not too big, but it's a nice, very satisfying little Jeep. It rolls really nicely, which I appreciate. He does come with this little pistol here. Now, unfortunately, like with a lot of figures, they really didn't figure out a good storage for this. Basically, what you're just supposed to do with storage is just plug it onto the top of the spare tire there, which looks cool as a little weaponized mode, but it doesn't really do the whole robots in disguise thing. But if you want, also the wheel actually can unpeg. So if you wanted to just plug the gun in directly, you could also do that. Now, unfortunately, there is actually a pretty decent amount of real estate under here that they could have gotten this gun to fit in. It fits. It would have clearance with the wheels. All they would have needed to do was just put a little tab on the gun, and then a slot or a hole either on this little piece here or on the back of the thigh. And it would have fit in there just fine, but they didn't prioritize doing that because they don't really try to do that a lot of the time. It seems like if it really conveniently works out, then they do have the integrated weapon storage, but it doesn't seem to be a design priority a lot of the time, unfortunately. Though, if I really wanted to, I think I probably could drill a hole in the side of the gun and drill a hole in the side of this piece and then just attach a, 3D printed peg onto one side of it just so you could peg it in like that and store it underneath. I might do that at some point, but either way, you're supposed to just put it on top like that, which is, always been something that bothers me, but it's nothing new for this figure in particular. For comparisons in this mode, here he is with the previous two versions of Brawn, the Studio Series version from the Bumblebee movie and the Titans Return version, just so you can see how he stacks up with them. Now, obviously, this is a really nice figure, but it is going for that Cybertronian design from the Bumblebee movie, so it doesn't really it's not really a good stand-in for a, G1 type Brawn. And then this figure was good for when it came out, but it doesn't really scale that well with the other recent generations figures. One, obviously the vehicle mode is way too small to scale with any of them, but even as a mini bot, he's since this is a Legends class figure, he's now smaller than our most recent Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, and I do feel like Bumblebee and Cliffjumper should be the smallest ones, especially in the the original arc cast from the 1984 cartoon. I think that the season 1 guys, Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, should be the smallest. So it's nice to have a bigger version of him that actually scales a little bit better in vehicle mode and can scale a little bit better in robot mode as well. So that's what he looks like with the other two Brawns that we've had recently. And here he is. Well, we'll do the standard one with Kingdom Sideswipe, just so you can see. It sort of feels like there's kind of two scales in the of the original season 1 cast guys that we've gotten recently. There's kind of the scale of Bumblebee and Optimus Prime that's a little bit smaller, and I feel like he kind of fits in with them. And then there's the scale of Sideswipe and most of the deluxe cars, I feel like don't quite line up with them. They're a little bit too big to fit with them. Once you have them kind of all together, I think it works relatively well if you're willing to kind of fudge the lines a little bit on the size of some of these vehicles. But if you're just looking at it one-to-one, really, I don't know if that really totally works out. I mean, he'd have to be a vehicle that is shaped a little bit differently than anything that we currently have scaling with a Lamborghini, but it's fine. I'm willing to fudge the lines there a little bit. So let's see how many of these guys we can get on here. We've got all of them. Then we can bring on Cliffjumper. Let's get Jazz. Let's get Ratchet, Ironhide. Trying to get all of the season 1 arc Autobots in the same shot seems a little bit impossible, but we're almost there, and every time I get a new one, it's pretty exciting because I had long decided that this did not really work as a stand-in for Brawn there. Yeah, definitely no way we're getting them all on frame here. There's Wheeljack. You can see the corner of Wheeljack, and then we'll put we've got Hound there, and then just Mirage. Let's see if we can get Mirage in there. Yeah, they're all technically on frame. That's good enough for me. So yeah, we're getting pretty close here. We just need new versions of Gears and Windcharger, and then that's, you know, a clean wash for getting new versions of all of the season 1 arc Autobots. And then obviously, you know, pretty soon we're going to be getting replacements for both Hound and Ratchet in Studio Series and Buzzworthy Bumblebee. And eventually I'd like to get a new Mirage and replace the Classics one, because I didn't really like the way that the Siege nor Kingdom ones looked. So, you know, I'm still using this one, and I still feel like this is the best version for my purposes. But, you know, this figure has shown its age. So eventually I would like to get a new version of Mirage that's a little bit more accurate to G1 without doing the whole cheating thing that the Siege and Earthrise ones did. But, you know, I'm happy with this one being a stand-in for now. Really, I'm pretty satisfied overall with all of these guys. Just need a new Gears and Windcharger. But yeah, that's what he looks like with all of the other Season 1 Arc Autobots so far. If I can get them all framed here successfully. But yeah, to get on to transformation for this guy, obviously just take the gun off and put it to the side for now. First thing you want to do is take this back panel here and just untab it. It has these little hook tabs that peg into these slots here. They don't hook in this mode. They hook into, you know, where they sit in robot mode, but they just peg in like that. So you want to take this panel and then flip it up like that onto the back. Then take the entire back section and just unpeg it and just kind of like open it up like that for now. And that allows you to take these side sections here, which are going to become the legs, and then untab them from the front here, just like that, and then rotate them down just like this. So they sit like that. And now these little hook tabs, when you rotate the wheel the rest of the way, will sit in between that section to lock that all in place. And then we can take the little feet here, fold them up, and then fold out the toes and the heels there, and just do that on both sides. I like how that works. And then you want to take the entire chest section with the head there. You don't have to rotate the head around for vehicle mode. I just do it so his face isn't, you know, pointing underneath, but it fits either way. You want to fold this down and then rotate around the head if you have it rotated around. And then this is actually a pretty neat trick. You take the grill section and it actually rotates around like this to give him his little like back of head panel, and then actually have a place for the front of the car to go. And I think that's a really neat trick. And then you can just fold this back up and tab it into place. And then the arms are actually tabbed into each other. So you just want to untab those and then flip them around on the windows. Actually here are the joint, and you just rotate them into that cavity where the feet used to store. And then you rotate it around on this little armature, so it kind of tabs into place like that. Then we can flip out his hand and then rotate the forearm so it is facing forward, and just do that on both sides here. And we rotate them around at the waist, and then take the entire back section here, and it'll kind of just double hinge up and kind of just loosely sit like that. I wish that compressed a little bit more, but you know, that's just kind of the backpack he's working with. And yeah, there we have Studio Series Brawn in his robot mode, and he looks great. Honestly, when we first saw images of this guy, I was a little bit hesitant. I thought that, you know, he looked a little bit too boxy. Like, you know, in the cartoon, Brawn had like a really kind of like more rounded out chest, and it does have that detail there, but it's definitely all very squared off. But in person, I feel like it works a lot better than those initial images made it seem like it would. But yeah, no, I think he looks really, really nice. In terms of articulation, the head is just on a swivel, no ball joint, so you can just rotate it side to side. But it's a very nice Brawn-like head sculpt there. Could use a little bit more, I don't know, expression and character, but overall gets the shape pretty well. The shoulders are on ball joints here. Now this one is a little bit loose. It's not floppy or anything. It just moves a little bit smoother than I'd like it to, but it might become an issue later. But his arms are so light that I doubt it'll be too big of a problem. He also has a bicep swivel, got a actually pretty deep elbow bend just for a single hinge there. Nothing at the wrist other than just bending in for transformation. He does have a waist cut. Obviously, it bumps into the backpack at a certain point, but he gets a pretty good range before that happens. The hips can go forward, back only about that far just because of the backpack, and out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel. Unfortunately, a little bit under 90 degrees of bend at the knee. That's probably his most kind of limited joint there, but not the end of the world. And then the feet can tilt out to the side, and both the toe and the heel can tilt in, but neither can really tilt up. So I don't really find those joints to be particularly useful for posability, but still pretty decent posability for this guy. Now, obviously, we can give him his gun here, and I feel like he looks pretty good holding that. And now if you want to store it in this mode, I feel like this port works a lot better. You can just plug it into the back of the wheel there. It definitely sticks out a little bit, but you could have, again, of course, if you don't like the wheel there at all, you could just peg it in like that. You could also, if you want, have him hold the wheel for whatever reason, or if you wanted his gun to be the gun and the wheel, you could do that. You've got a few options there. One joint on him that's not joint. I'm a little bit confused as what this is supposed to be because it doesn't really like tab into anything in vehicle mode. So I'm not sure what this is for. It doesn't really seem to be like a storage method for the gun that I've found. I don't really know what that's supposed to be, but it's not a problem or anything. It's just kind of like a unexplained little thing on the figure. So whatever. But yeah, no, pretty decent. Now in terms of comparisons in this mode, first of all, here he is again with our two previous Brawns, the Bumblebee movie one from Studio Series and the Titans Return version. And yeah, I think that he's definitely the best of the three. I mean, I really like this figure for what it is, but in terms of what I want out of a Brawn figure, like this is what I want more so. But this is a really good figure in and of itself. And this was a good figure for the time, but definitely feels like this is an upgrade in every single area. He looks better in vehicle mode, looks better in robot mode, scales better, the colors match a little bit better, and yeah, just an overall a lot nicer figure than our previous ones. Well, I mean, than this one, definitely. This is a really nice figure just in terms of what you actually want out of your Brawn. And then here he is again with Sideswipe, Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Jazz, Ratchet, Blue Streak, Prowl, Hound. Let's get Mirage, Sunstreaker in the back there, Cliff Jumper, Ironhide is technically on frame, Trailbreaker, Huffer in the back as well, and Wheeljack. That's all of them. That's what he looks like with all of the season 1 ARC Autobots, and yeah, I think he works pretty well with them. Just to get most of these guys out of the way, just to kind of show the scale here, I'll leave on Bumblebee and Sideswipe for our standard ones here, just so you can see how he scales in the sort of like deluxe class range. Let's leave Huffer on too, because I think Huffer is the one he's actually closest to in height. There we go. So you can see, definitely not as small as Bumblebee. He's definitely a bit taller than Bumblebee. Definitely not as tall as Sideswipe. A bit smaller than Sideswipe. He's pretty much the exact same height at the eye level as Huffer, which I feel like is a pretty good scaling. I could have done with him being a little bit smaller, but I think that this is really the scale that they ought to go with. Just being all the mini bots being kind of small, but Bumblebee and Cliffjumper being the smallest ones, I think that really works well for me. So yeah, that works pretty well. And yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say about him. Just honestly, a really nice figure. Like I said, when I first saw images of him, I wasn't totally sold about like how boxy he was, but the vehicle mode is really, really nice and is very satisfying to drive around. The robot mode is nice. He's got pretty good articulation. The gun thing, it's an annoyance that I have with a lot of figures, that the gun doesn't really store in vehicle mode. With him, I feel like it is possible to make it fixable. It might even be able to, no, I was gonna say maybe it would be able to store like in here, but I don't think so. Even with this flipped around, maybe it would actually. No, I don't really think that there's the real estate for there once the feet are flipped around, unfortunately. But I think that it would be fixable to just like drill a little hole in the gun and a little hole in this piece that seems to serve no other purpose, and then have it peg onto that in vehicle mode. I think that that's possible. So again, it's a problem I have with a lot of figures, but with him, it seems like it's fixable. And if not, that's okay. A lot of my figures end up just like not having weapons because they don't have any proper way to store in vehicle mode. So it's fine with me. Also, a weirdly satisfying thing while holding him is the fact that his wheels are just on the back of his legs. I really like that aesthetic. So it's kind of fun to just kind of like roll the wheels around when you're messing around with him. But yeah, again, not a whole lot to say about him. Just a really, really solid figure. I'm excited to see how they're able to do a good gears and wind charger too, so that we have our fully completed, updated, season 1 arc cast complete. But yeah, if you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Make sure to check me out on my Instagram account. That's toys.n.art. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Studio Series 86 Deluxe Class Brawn.